Our story begins not in the 7th century, but the 6th. The world is dominated by two superpowers, the Byzantine Roman Empire in the west and the Sasanian Persian Empire in the east. Caught between them is the Arabian Peninsula, a vast expanse of desert dotted with oases and trade routes that are the lifeblood of the region. And on one of these routes lies a city, not a capital of empires, but a center of commerce and faith, Mecca. In the 6th century, Mecca is run by the Quraysh tribe. Their power comes from two sources: trade and the Kaaba. The Kaaba is a simple, cube-shaped building, but it is the spiritual heart of Arabia. It houses over 360 idols, representing the gods of the peninsula's many tribes. The chief deity among them is Hubal, a large statue of red agate. Each year, tribes converge on Mecca for a pilgrimage. They trade goods, settle disputes, and perform rituals. They circle the Kaaba, sometimes naked, in a tradition that has lost its original meaning. They offer sacrifices, believing the gods demand flesh and blood. For the Quraysh, this pilgrimage is a source of immense wealth and prestige. But far to the south, another power sees Mecca not as a partner, but as a rival. In Yemen, the Christian king Abraha al-Ashram rules. A former slave or commander in the Aksumite army from Abyssinia, he has seized power and established himself as a formidable ruler. Historical inscriptions found under the Great Marib Dam confirm his existence, his Christianity, and his military campaigns, grounding this story in fact. Abraha is ambitious. He sees the flow of pilgrims and wealth to Mecca's pagan shrine and decides to divert it. In his capital, Sana'a, he builds a magnificent cathedral, the likes of which Arabia has never seen. He calls it al-Quds, from the Greek word for church, ecclesia. His goal is clear: to make al-Quds the new spiritual and economic center of Arabia, replacing the Kaaba entirely. It is a direct challenge to the power and beliefs of the Quraysh. The challenge escalates. An Arab tribesman, furious at Abraha's plan, travels to Sana'a and desecrates the new cathedral. This is the pretext Abraha needs. He amasses a colossal army, some sources say up to 60,000 men, to march on Mecca and demolish the Kaaba once and for all. At the head of his army is a weapon of psychological warfare, war elephants. These creatures are alien to Arabian combat, designed to crush enemy lines and inspire absolute terror. The lead elephant, a massive white beast, is known in tradition as Mahmud. As Abraha's forces march north, they sweep aside any Arab tribes that dare to resist, taking prisoners and forcing guides to lead them toward their target. The fate of Mecca seems sealed. The army halts at the valley of Muhasir, on the edge of Mecca's sacred boundary. The Quraysh, led by Muhammad's grandfather, Abd al-Muttalib, know they stand no chance. They abandon the city, retreating to the mountains to await the inevitable. The Kaaba is left defenseless, its protection entrusted to its lord. As Abraha gives the order to advance, something extraordinary happens. The lead elephant, Mahmud, stops dead in its tracks. It kneels and refuses to cross the boundary into Mecca. Goaded and beaten, it will turn in any other direction, but it will not advance on the Kaaba. Then, as the army stands in confusion, the sky darkens. This is the account immortalized in the Qur'an's 105th chapter, Al-Fil, or the elephant. It describes flocks of birds, called Ababil, sent by God. They pelt the invaders with stones of baked clay, leaving the once mighty army like eaten straw. But there is another layer to this story, one noted even by early Islamic historians. Historians like al-Waqidi and modern scholars suggest the army was struck down by a sudden, virulent plague, perhaps smallpox or measles. In a world without germ theory, A pestilence that wipes out an invading army while sparing the local population would be seen as nothing less than a direct divine act. The stones of baked clay could be a powerful metaphor for the agonizing pustules of the disease. The two accounts are not necessarily contradictory. One explains how the army was destroyed physically, the other explains why it was destroyed spiritually. The destruction of Abraha's army is total. Mecca is saved. The sanctity of the Kaaba is magnified across the entire peninsula. The event is so significant that the Arabs begin a new calendar, dating everything from this moment, the year of the elephant. But the true miracle, according to Islamic tradition, was yet to be revealed. For in that very same year, a child was born in Mecca to the Quraysh tribe. His name was Muhammad. From the Islamic perspective, this was no coincidence. It was a divine sign, a miracle before the fact, clearing the stage and protecting the very ground where the final prophet would be born. The first act of divine protection was complete. The second would come 54 years later. Decades pass. Muhammad receives his revelations and preaches a radical message in Mecca. There is only one God. This message threatens the entire social, economic, and religious structure the Quraysh have built around the Kaaba's idols. The persecution of his followers becomes brutal. Finally, in 622 CE, they are forced to flee. This migration, the Hijra, is a turning point. The Muslims leave their homes and wealth behind, seeking refuge in the city of Yathrib, which becomes known as Medina. Here, they form the first self-governing Muslim community, the Ummah. But they are now refugees, and their enemies in Mecca are determined to see them destroyed. 2 years after the Hijra, the Muslims in Medina are struggling. Their property in Mecca has been seized. In the harsh realities of tribal Arabia, raiding enemy caravans is a legitimate act of war and a means of survival. Word reaches Prophet Muhammad of a massive Quraysh caravan laden with wealth returning from Syria. It is led by a chief of the Quraysh, Abu Sufyan. Muhammad assembles a small force of about 300 men to intercept it. The plan is not to fight a pitched battle, but to capture the caravan and reclaim what was taken from them. But Abu Sufyan is cautious. His spies warn him of the ambush. He quickly sends a rider to Mecca, pleading for an army to protect the caravan. The caravan escapes. But in Mecca, the Quraysh, led by the fiery Abu Jahl, see an opportunity to annihilate the Muslims once and for all. They march out with a force of 1,000 warriors, spoiling for a fight. The small Muslim raiding party now finds itself facing a full-scale army. The two forces converge at a collection of wells in the desert known as Badr. The disparity is staggering. On one side, just over 300 Muslims with only 2 horses, 70 camels, and minimal armor. On the other, 1,000 elite Quraysh fighters with 100 horses, hundreds of camels, and clad in oil and steel. The Muslims are outnumbered, outmatched, and outmaneuvered. Defeat seems certain, but strategy and faith are on their side. The Prophet secures the wells of Badr, controlling the water supply. That night, a rain falls, firming the sandy ground for the Muslims, but turning the path of the Quraysh into mud. A divine slumber, a sense of peace, descends upon the believers, calming their fears. As the Prophet prays fervently for victory, the Qur'an states that God promises to reinforce them with 1,000 angels. The battle begins with duels of champions, which the Muslims win. The Quraysh, enraged, launch an all-out assault. The small Muslim army stands firm. At a critical moment, the Prophet takes a handful of dust and throws it toward the enemy, a symbolic act of defiance. The tide of the battle turns. The Quraysh lines break. Their leaders fall. The charge becomes a rout. The victory is absolute. 70 of the Quraysh's finest warriors, including their commander Abu Jahl, lie dead. 70 more are taken prisoner. The Muslims lose only 14 men. The news of Badr sends shockwaves across Arabia. The victory is a monumental boost to Muslim morale, seen as undeniable proof of divine sanction. The aura of invincibility surrounding the Quraysh is shattered. Their prestige is crippled. The Muslims are no longer a persecuted sect of refugees. They are now a major political and military power in the region. The victory solidifies the Prophet's leadership, silences his opponents within Medina, and forges the diverse group of believers into a unified, confident ummah. The Battle of Badr, which the Qur'an calls Yawm al-Furqan, the Day of Distinction, has distinguished truth from falsehood and changed the course of history. The Year of the Elephant and the Battle of Badr. Two impossible victories, separated by 54 years. They appear to be isolated miracles, but when viewed together, a profound pattern emerges. In the first event, the people of Mecca are passive spectators. They hide in the mountains while God intervenes directly to protect a place, the physical heart of their future faith. The miracle happens for them, but at Badr, the community is an active participant. They plan, they fight, they remain steadfast in the face of overwhelming odds. The divine aid comes to reinforce their courage and their actions. It marks a theological evolution. First, a miracle to protect the stone cradle of Islam, ensuring it would have a place to be born. Then, a miracle to empower the living community of Islam, ensuring it would have a people to survive. The victory at Badr, however, was not the end of the struggle, but the beginning. It set the stage for the next great confrontation, the Battle of Uhud, where the lessons of faith and strategy would be tested in a crucible of near defeat. To understand what happened next, and how the young Muslim community faced its greatest crisis yet, click the video on your screen now to watch our documentary on the Battle of Uhud. You'll find that video right here. Thanks for watching. For more deep dives into the pivotal moments of Islamic history, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon. We'll see you in the next one.